The Architect interface is really simple and intuitive to use. If you're coming from Muse, it's going to feel like a breath of fresh air. Let me quickly tour you around the interface to show you what everything is. On the top bar here, we have a drop-down to select different pages on our site. So if we wanted to quickly jump to our About page or a menu page, we can use this bar. I explained the preview options and the info option in my last video. And lastly, on the side, we have a developer mode that will access the code behind the site. And then we have a publish button. This is how we can make our site live on the web. Lastly, we just have some help and support options and a button to go back to the dashboard. Down the left-hand side, we have the various options that we'll need to create the website. So we have a design box that gives us some global settings, the ability to change pages and rearrange your nav, custom widgets that allow you to add content to the site, and a whole bunch more options all the way down. If we want to close this option on the left, we can just click the X, and our site's back in view. Using the editor for Architect is very much a drag and drop experience. However, you are going to work within columns and rows to keep your structure in place. So as you can see here, I have a headline and I have a button below. And if I wanted to drag this headline down below this button, I could do so just like that. We might need to add some spacing in here, and we could do that by adding some padding to the bottom of the button, or we can actually click this little bounding box and drag down on the text, and that just creates some space there. Now there's two ways to get into the edit mode for each of these items. So we have a button here, and if I just click on the button itself, it brings up a dialog box. The Architect editor typically shows you two options in these dialog boxes. You have the content view, which lets you change things like text on buttons, links, anything that's considered content. Then we have the design tab. And within the design tab, you're going to get things like the size of things, the colors, all of the style settings. There's another more advanced settings option if you click this gear here, and it brings up some things like alignment, the ability to set animations, and the ability to hide that element on different devices. We can also jump right into the HTML and CSS using this option, and there's a delete option for that element. Let me just close out of this dialog for a sec, and I'll show you another way to get into that. Rather than clicking on this, if we were to right-click or control-click, it actually brings up a menu, and it gives us some of the same options we had, or we can just jump right into editing the content or design. Architect's quite unique in the fact that you can right-click into an element, and even though this is a web-driven application, it still feels like a desktop app. Anytime I want to delete an element, you can just mouse over the element and click the red X in the corner, or we could control or right-click on it and go down to the delete option. If I do delete this button, and then I decide I want it back, I can just go up to the undo option here in the top, click it once, and give the site a second, and it will reload it with it back in place. I'm just going to drag this back down so it's underneath the headline. Next, let's talk about elements on other devices. Architect is quite unique in that it uses a hybrid, responsive, adaptive approach. What this means is that each device is going to be shown the same website, but highly optimized for that device. This results in lightning fast mobile sites without the hassle of a completely alternate layout like Muse used to do. One of the perks of this system, however, is that we can tweak each element based on the device. So if I go to the mobile view here, and I decide I want a little bit more, let's say, padding below this text item, I can drag that down. And then when I jump back to the desktop view, you can see that the original spacing has been retained. If I click on this button to bring up the editor, and I go into the design tab, you'll see little notes that say things like change effects, desktop, and tablet. Just pay attention to those in case you're trying to make a change that you don't want on those devices. Desktop and tablet are often quite similar. However, mobile is very unique. And for the most part, when you're editing on the mobile layout, it's just going to affect that layout. If you want drastically different items between different devices, you can actually click the gear up here and you can say hide on device and hide this on a mobile or tablet or desktop layout. Then you could create a new version that you only showed on the mobile device so that you have a little bit more style control. I feel that this hybrid approach that Architect uses to responsive is far superior to what we had in Muse. You're getting the best of both worlds, a highly optimized site that can be tweaked for all devices. However, you're still only editing one website that's just being served up differently depending on the device. Thanks for watching, and in my next video, I'll show you how to pull in content so that we could rebuild the site we had on another platform.